has a different plan this time at Gettysburg. He keeps control of his lead elements, and his plan is to defend along the ridge here and threaten Gettysburg. Gettysburg, as you can tell by all the roads going into it, is a major hub of travel. You control Gettysburg, you control all of the eastern area of Pennsylvania. Lee doesn't need to occupy Gettysburg. He needs to threaten it and have the citizens of Gettysburg demanding salvation from the ravenous southern hordes. As is his preference, he'll occupy desirable area and force the North to attack him. In replay of Second Bull Run, once the North has engaged him and is committed to attacking this way, he's going to have Ewell come down from the north and attack them in the flank. As a ruse, he has let plans of his fall into the hands of Northern sympathizers. These plans state that he wants to capture Gettysburg. He's doing what he can to motivate the North, to motivate Meade to come in and save Gettysburg. Let's see how this plays out. As the sun rises on Gettysburg, a detachment of cavalry under Buford is protecting Gettysburg from the southern hordes. They move to McPherson Ridge to keep an eye out. It appears the North has swallowed the hook as more federal troops race towards Gettysburg. As expected, the southern forces appear. It's mid-morning. The federal troops continue up Emmitsburg Road. The North was approaching a little too hastily, and A.P. Hill catches them in column. Buford, being enveloped on both sides, has no choice but to fall back. A.P. Hill's assault on Howard's column. Reynolds' column takes it badly and falls into confusion. Late morning, Reynolds falls back and tries to rally his troops around Gettysburg. And Buford's cavalry covers the Federal left flank, and Howard races up to support Reynolds. A.P. Hill dresses his line and brings on another division. It's now midday. Historically, Ewell's corps began coming in about midday, but Lee is holding him back. Not this time. Buford's cavalry rides wide to protect the Union flank and to extend the Confederate flank. Howard's corps deploys on Reynolds' left, and Howard and Reynolds confer, and they move their caissons clear of the roads. A.P. Hill establishes his line and brings up his artillery. Reynolds' First Corps dresses its line and deploys skirmishers. In the mid-afternoon, Howard's corps gets a toehold on Seminary Ridge and dresses his line along with Reynolds. Meanwhile, A.P. Hill secures his flank. Buford continues watching and extending the southern flank. And the last of Howard's corps comes up the Taneytown Road. It's nearing dinner time as the two sides warily watch each other. Hill moves around to the right and warily extends his line. And Lee comes up the Chambersburg Pike, and the last of A.P. Hill's corps arrives. Howard and Reynolds bring the bags forward, as the rest of Howard's corps extends the Union line. The rerouted and delayed rest of Howard's corps races up the Emmitsburg Road, followed by the lead elements of Sickles' corps, and at the same time, Slocum's 12th Corps comes up the Baltimore Pike. And now as it nears dusk, the last elements arrive for the day, and the troops of both sides can be heard digging in, felling trees. They're getting ready. Longstreet comes racing up the road to confer with Lee. They call over A.P. Hill. They place A.P. Hill's division in reserve, and Longstreet's corps heads to the Confederate right. Sickles' corps joins the line, as the remainder of his corps races on. Reynolds deploys bags along the Baltimore Pike, rallies his spent troops, and brings up fresh troops to form a reserve and protect the bags. Slocum's corps races forward to strengthen the line. And now we come to the evening turn. Reynolds dresses his line and extends the Union right. Slocum's 12th Corps is held in reserve. Longstreet's corps forms up, and Sickles' corps joins the line in full strength. And the long Union artillery train trundles up the Baltimore Pike. And General Meade arrives on the scene with Hancock and the 2nd Corps. Hill positions Anderson's division as a ready reserve and purposely leaves his left flank exposed. And now it's the morning of the second day, and more Union troops are piling in. Howard brings his corps together. Meade and Hancock join the Federal command on Cemetery Hill as Meade's corps feeds into the line. Howard condenses his corps. A.P. Hill dresses his line and brings his artillery over to his left. Sickles' corps shifts to the right. The Union artillery moves up. Slocum's Corps strengthens the Union line west of Gettysburg, and Sykes' Corps is seen coming up the Baltimore Pike, and Longstreet's men strengthen the Confederate right. At this point, we're going to zoom in on the action. And Jackson's artillery races on. Mid-morning, Jackson's artillery comes into the line. Hancock's Corps reinforces the line. Half the Union artillery begins heading off to the Union right, and the other half moves to the left. And Slocum's Corps prepares for the artillery. Hill moves his artillery into position, and Sykes races up to Gettysburg. And now it's late morning, and still the Union troops are flowing on. Slocum's Corps extends the Union right, and the eager artillerymen from A.P. Hill's Corps fire long range at Slocum's Corps, doing some damage. Sykes' 5th Corps comes out of column. Taking the hint, Longstreet's artillery opens up on Sickles' men, also doing some damage. And Union artillery moves into the line. And now it's lunchtime. Undaunted, Slocum's men join the line, and the bags are moved down towards this end. Longstreet's artillery keeps up the assault, and Sickles' men can't stand the heat. Sykes' Corps positions itself behind the line. A.P. Hill's artillery opens up in the artillery north of Gettysburg, with little effect. And now the Federal artillery fires, driving A.P. Hill's artillery back, and more artillery fires, again in the same position, opening up a hole on the Confederate right. It's early afternoon on the second day, and the Union line charges. Longstreet races over to take control of his line. He screens the cavalry and flanks the Yankee attack. Hill's artillery recovers on a reverse slope, and he flanks the Federals. And now, early afternoon, July 2nd, 1863, a very different Battle of Gettysburg begins in earnest. The initial Union assault results in devastating losses. All through the afternoon, the fighting continues. Sickles pushes. Howard renews the attack with fresh troops. Reynolds' men attack. Hancock's men renew the attack. A.P. Hill refuses his flank and holds. Sykes' men give A.P. Hill's artillery no rest. Union artillery begins rolling towards the hill. Longstreet puts his trust in Hood's Texans to hold the center as he tries to stabilize both 1st Corps' flanks. Sedgwick's 6th Corps appears. And finally, Longstreet's last troops, Pickett's division, arrives, and Slocum's Corps races ahead. And then, like eagles in The Hobbit, Ewell's Corps arrives. Slocum's Corps attacked in the rear. Slocum's Corps is wiped out, and the flank attack on Sykes' unit. Sykes' men are driven back, and they throw the artillery and a couple detachments into chaos. And now the rest of the line. The assault at dinner time saw the South losing 1 block, the North losing 5 blocks. But do the South want to deploy bags and recover their troops? Do they dare? And what about Ewell's surprise attack on the South? Will the Federal troops be able to recover from that? In the early evening hours, Sykes does what he can do to recover his corps. He struggles to even get his troops out of the field of fire. On the Union left, Hancock feels he still has a chance. Ewell does what he can do to keep the Yanks running. Slocum is caught behind enemy lines and he has no troops. He runs to alert Meade of the disaster on the Union right. Reynolds pulls his corps back, hoping to rally them. Longstreet moves to see if he can get Pickett to charge, and the artillery falls back. Buford's cavalry charges the flank. Sedgwick's 6th Corps races forward. Howard's lead troops fall back. Sickles realizes he attempted a ridge too far. Yeah, I went there. He pulls his men back, and A.P. Hill and Lee race to win the battle. Before they could stop him, Lee commands the remnants of Pender's division to attack, and combat erupts. After the battles of the early evening, we see that the Confederates have lost 3 blocks, the Union has lost 7. Both armies break when they've lost 9 blocks. At this point, Meade has decided he must pull back tonight. But he's unpacked bags. He'll have to pack them up and pull off the board, hoping to stave off a major loss with just a minor setback. His artillery races back. Howard rallies his men. Reynolds rallies his. At this point, they're feeling pretty strong. They convince Meade that they can hold. Hancock falls back to the peach orchard. Longstreet sends his corps forward. Buford's cavalry falls back. The tattered remnants of Sykes' 5th Corps defend Gettysburg, and Sedgwick's men race to secure the Yankee right. And Ewell moves up to finish the job. Bags are unpacked on Cemetery Ridge. A.P. Hill's corps is exhausted. Only 3 blocks left. He took the brunt of the Union assault today. Although Anderson's division has not really seen action today, so he pulls what band of brothers remained off the line and brings forward Anderson's division. The last action of the day in Gettysburg. Sykes' corps is driven back into Sedgwick's corps, throwing them into complete confusion. But Ewell's attacking force is completely exhausted and gone. Booyah! Sedgwick's lead troops are destroyed. And now you can see when night falls, Lee has lost 5 infantry blocks. Meade has lost 8. But the night is coming on. Reynolds convinces Meade that he can hold. Tonight they'll recover losses. Tomorrow's a new day. Alright, here we go with the night turn of day 2. Now I've already recovered the losses from the previous day and placed them on the map. During the day 2 night turn, the main cavalry forces of both sides arrive. And here's Stuart's cavalry now, riding up to save the day. 2 of Sedgwick's divisions are close enough to the unpacked bags to rally, but Wright's block is too close to a southern block. It cannot rally. Sickles' men rally. Sykes' men are also too close to the Confederates to rally. They fall back to a safer area. And Ewell's troops maneuver to set up the hammer for the next day. And then they rest. The Union artillery moves to refit, reorganize, and rally for the night. A.P. Hill maneuvers what remains of his corps. Longstreet deploys Beggs behind Willoughby Run, rallies his troops, and prepares for the next day. Let us pause for a brief metagame moment. When you are playing versus another human opponent, rather than turning your bags up, you turn them down, forcing the opposing player to try and remember where those bags are. It's an added fog of war. When playing two-fisted solo like I am, I turn them up so I can keep track of where things are at. When playing two-fisted solo, I don't use the alter turn order rule where a command can jump ahead and move sooner or hold off and move later. I take the chit draw as it comes, and that serves to limit and give advantage to both sides at random times. I find this keeps the game varied and interesting. Now, back to the game. And Pleasanton and his cavalry arrive. And now day breaks on day 3 at Gettysburg. Sedgwick's men recover. The Federal artillery recovers. Stuart's cavalry secures the Confederate left. Not wanting to allow Meade to strengthen his line any further, Ewell attacks at dawn. It starts with an artillery barrage. Sedgwick's dazed men are thrown back, sweeping along some of Sykes' men. Sykes is able to get the unpacked bags pulled back just in time as the rest of his troops fall back. A.P. Hill sounds the charge, as does Longstreet. Slocum's men fall back, reorganize, and drive to save the bags. Pleasanton's cavalry covers the Federal right. We move the drone to cover the battle more fully. And now at dawn, the line explodes. Slocum's men, exhausted by yesterday's fighting, fell a little short of accomplishing their task, and they completely fell apart on the battlefield. The bags lay open. What a hot battle it is. One battle to clean up here. And Sykes' men are driven back. It's mid-morning. Now in a game between two players, the Confederate player will be trying to roll to jump Ewell to move first, so that they could contact the bags and win the game. But the Union would be trying to do the same thing, and Reynolds' corps could try. If they failed, Howard's men could try, and if they failed, you could even throw a detachment in. Something in there to hold it for another turn. But this is double-blind solitaire, and it depends who's drawn first. Howard's corps is drawn first, and he sends Barlow in to save the bags. And remember, Since the bags have been unpacked here, that symbolizes Meade's intention to hold here. It's not as simple as packing up this unit and moving them back a bit. This represents hospitals, signal corps, logistics depots, everything. If you're going to move that, you're bugging out. Now you can bug out and take a minor loss, or you can try to hold, and if the Confederates capture it, that's a major loss. Now Howard would like to take skirts and place them here like that, but this puts them fully in the line of fire, the field of fire of these Confederate troops. So he can't do that unless he attacks them. Skirts will simply fall back to here. These Confederate troops were pushed back last turn, so their field of fire, the front of their units, is over here. They have no field of fire going this way. Stuart moves out east of Gettysburg. He's not a man to sit around. The Federal artillery is moved up to reinforce the line. Sykes attempts to hold. Can Reynolds save the day? He can't just defend the bags. He has to push back the attacking enemy. A.P. Hill holds and rallies half. Longstreet does what he can, and Early's men attack. Hancock does what he can to stop a rout. He has most of his corps fall back behind Little Round Top, where he has a few men, including the 1st Minnesota, defending with the artillery in the Devil's Den. Sickles is going to have to fall back to defend the bags, but it looks like he'll have to sacrifice the artillery. Sedgwick unpacks bags, pulls some troops back, and recovers others. Pleasanton's cavalry is feeling outnumbered by the Confederate cavalry. They refuse their flank, and the artillery fires. Driving off, Stuart's horse artillery. Pleasanton has sent an aide out to Buford to say, "Come on back to this side, we could use your help." But Buford has his hands full. We don't know if he'll respond or not. Now we have mid-morning combat resolution. Ewell's men on Sykes' corps. A harsh Confederate loss. Howard saving the bags. Howard's men are beaten back, but the bags are saved. Reynolds sends troops, including the Iron Brigade, into Gettysburg. Driving out Ewell's men. His other troops, trying to hold off A.P. Hill's corps, which they do at great cost. Longstreet's attack. On the artillery, will the Union be able to pull the artillery out in time? The artillery is sacrificed. Hood's Texans running into a detachment and wiping it out. And Buford's mounted infantry facing a detachment of Confederates. Bye-bye detachment. And now as we enter late morning, it's very tense indeed. Both sides have lost 6 blocks. Both sides break at 9 blocks. The two exhausted armies are fighting with troops that are too far from their own bags or too close to the enemy to recover. Casualties come fast and heavy. Alright, late morning. Stuart will not be denied, and he charges the Union cavalry. A.P. Hill is drawn. There we have it. He sends his remaining units forward and captures the Union bags. Now these bags move with 1st Corps, and 1st Corps has not yet been drawn. So when 1st Corps is drawn, they can pack up these bags and end the game with their bags, as pulling the bags off, which is a minor defeat. Well, that was a heck of a fight, and that was close. Good game. Now in this video, I broke with my narrative-only rule and spent some time talking about the game's system and rules. If you have any questions, leave them below. I try to respond to everyone. Thank you.